everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attacker Productions. I'm back up once again by Trevor.
Hello!
In today's matchup, well, it's me versus Trevor. I'm playing the new Green Son Goku GT, and Trevor's playing the new Majin Buu yellow deck. So, new set's out, we're getting a chance to finally get our hands on the product and get to play the game. Like always, there's buttons, check them out, the link in the descriptions. Let's get into today's profile. Before we get into really the matchup, just want to point out that when it comes to the first day of us being able to play the new product, time rolls are kind of just not really there. Like, we still try to keep a restricted within our slotted window at the shop, but we're trying to make sure we get new interactions taken care of, make sure we're reading the cards and playing them correctly. So hopefully there's really no misplays. And if there are, let us know in the comments down below. Majin Buu Yellow, you are probably one of our few shop members who are just, if it's a Majin Buu deck, you will play it no matter what. How did you feel about this deck going into it?
Yeah, before I hop into that, there will inevitably be misplays here, and there will be a lot of missed auto timings that we balk back on. Okay, now that that's out of the way. I love Majin Buu. I love his design. I think his, whole concept in the show's, super cool. Kind of a lame villain, but really Dragon Ball villains aren't super impressive, to me anyway. So overall, the deck plays in a way that meets me as a player. Like, I typically play blue. I've kind of fallen into green in recent sets, but historically I've been a blue control player. And this yellow Buu is more control than it is actual aggressive yellow or mid-range yellow. It's a lot. It likes to go a lot later and prevent your opponent from doing things and makes them sequence weird. And if they don't sequence correctly on their turn, they kind of get punished for it.
Yeah.
It can put out a decent amount of pressure. And what I'm learning from playing this set in particular is if you're playing against an opponent from this or a deck from this set, almost all of them rely on some kind of Z battle card or Z stack effect. So I see if these decks do become meta, a lot more restrained early plays just to slow down your opponent's curve.
Yeah.
I noticed that a lot tonight, and this deck allows me to do it better than some of the other decks do, in my opinion.
Yeah, if it's interesting for a yellow deck that likes to say, I don't care about what your card does, I'm removing all its effects. It likes to protect itself very tightly. The interactions of your Z battle cards, as you mentioned, Z-Sack, just makes this deck work on a whole nother level. Being able to keep cards alive long enough to be able to do your effects and protect, and they're naturally protected because of the skills underneath a card. Because when I read the Evil Boo card, the one drop, the Z battle card, I misread it at first. And I thought that it said 2 or less, so it protected the initial start of a chain. But there's a lot of KOing in this game now, and it makes sense that it has it protected all the way up in the chain. So I know on my second turn, I think I go to play a card, and then I go, wait, oh yeah, it still has bear. I'm not exactly sure when it occurs, but it happens at some point in the game. And realizing that, I was like, oh, that's right. This is going to be annoying.
Yeah, it needs it, though. Without it, the deck just crumbles. And a lot of people know, Black Smoke's been a popular side tech option for unisons. But if people play against this deck, I'm giving my own deck away that I'm going to be playing for the next several weeks. If people side in Black Smoke, you can get rid of this. But if you're getting rid of this on turn 2 or 3, you use 2 of your energy to remove it, in my opinion, that's fine. Go ahead. That's slowing their decks down, and it gets me towards my win turn faster, which is typically turn 4, turn 5. I don't necessarily need these cards to win. So it's not the end of the world if people spend that energy to get rid of it. And as I played through the night and just thought, what if my opponent black smoked this? How would that put me in a position? And there were a couple times where my card was removed, especially in like a yellow matchup because Vegeta's Final Flash is a thing. Um, it was fine. I didn't care. I recovered from it and was able to, proceed as normal.
So just blinked on that. Um, let's touch base, I guess, on Son Goku for a bit because you mentioned Smoke Dragon. I remember when I was building my side deck, I was like, oh yeah, I need Smoke Dragons. I'm like, oh wait, the play is on its auto. You cannot play non-green cards as long as you have Dr. Mew and Dr. Zero in your warp. And the leader naturally pulls those two cards out and puts them into your warp. But the benefit of that, it's kind of like at the beginning of your main phase, as long as you put a Son Goku GT into your warp, you get to draw a card. So even though you're just cycling cards, really, those cards can be played from your warp either by activate mains or activate battles, which is pretty cool. And almost every card I felt like in this archetype has some form of KOing effect. So as you see here, that's why I went ahead and teched in the Frieza. Now, I did swing into your Buu for a brief moment. And then afterwards you evolved, I paused and I was like, huh. And I think you saw my brain kind of like rationalize something and you just said it instead. You're like, it's a new instance. I'm like, yeah, I know it's a new instance. That's stupid.
Yeah. So in Dragon Ball, and when a card played on top of a card, it's a new card. So in that sense, the boos underneath it say the card above this card, so cannot be KO'd or gains barrier once per turn. So said that weird, but always has barrier, only KO once per turn. Then since it's a new card, it's a new card on top of that card. So thus, by that logic, it has barrier and would need to be KO'd twice again to be removed or remove its skills. Now, the one thing that I need to get clarification on from Jimmy or the Judge Discord or something is if it gets final flashed, but I manage to out combo, and then, which is miraculous if I do, then at the end of battle, I tap one and play it on top of it. Does it have the barrier and the other effect? I would say yes.
I think it does because it's a new instance of the card. It's no longer the card previously. Now, if it's inside it somewhere, let us know in the comments. Make it things easier. But I do think it becomes a new instance of the card, so it regains its skills.
But it's really interesting all night, especially against wide boards that I expected in this matchup, when they would swing into my card repeatedly, if it were in rest mode, that I would be worried about those kinds of matchups. But a lot of people just, when they realize they'd have to KO it several times and I play the card on top of it in active mode after I get past the 4-drop, people just stopped swinging at it and started swinging at my leader. But people don't want to swing at my leader either because the Z leader has such good effects too. So it was a interesting spot because a lot of decks, when you don't want to swing at the leader and you don't want to swing at battle cards, you swing at a unison, but there's no unison to swing at. It's like a lose-lose situation in some people's minds. And from this point forward, I was literally just thinking these Goku GT cards in his drop area can come out really cheap and go stupid wide. So I was like, I don't fully know how to deal with this. And you EDK'd this attack. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. Because this is a crit attack. And you actually hit one of my 6-drops, which there's one in my energy right now. And you took one out of my hand. And I think I threw one away earlier too. So that leaves me with one. So from this point forward, I'm basically like, well, I don't know if it's in my hand right now. I'm pretty sure it's not. So I was like, well, if I can't go up the chain, how do I win?
I wanted to make sure that crit hit since you didn't choose to block. It was one of those situations where I was like, oh, if he blocks, then he could just combo a card and play a new card on top, and I'll just deal with that next turn. or if he doesn't, I'm going to make you pay for it.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I don't want to block this because I actually kind of like want the attack to go through on my leader because I want to go down to 4 to get my Z leader active. Um, so I block later to give the option of the 6 drop. I
Yeah.
don't know if I have it in hand. If I do, I'll do it here. I can't remember. Chances are, if I don't have it,
Yeah,
and I don't.
yeah. I and kind of go over this 18 for a bit. This 18 is really nice. It is unique barrier, so it kind of protects itself in a sense. It has a permit where if you have 2 Son Goku GTs, if I recall correctly, in your warp, it gets an extra 6k, so it makes it a 10k card. And the Goku you saw I comboed from the warp has activate battle. When one of your 18s is in battle, you could combo this card. So initially it's a 15k using no cards from my hand, or a 15k swing with using no cards in my hand, and then immediately goes back into the Z energy for another play, or even if my Z awaken if I need to go that route. And then the base leader itself restands at 18 at the end of your turn, so that way she stays protected. So I go into my turn 4 and potentially play the card that I Z-stacked underneath it. And in order to do a lot of these effects, like to play the Gokus like Trevor mentioned, you do need to have 3 or more Pan or GT cards that don't have Goku in its name. And at this point, I did have a Trunks, a Goten, and I think another Trunks or Goten in my drop at the time. But I do like the idea, like, because one, the Gokus, because they both can play for 1 energy as long as you meet those requirements, and one has crit, and the other one gets a 5k boost as long as they meet certain conditions. And so it's pretty cool either having a 20k swing or a crit whenever I need to for 1 energy.
Yeah, and comboed with that Vegeta card that's in the deck, you could give that crit double strike, right?
Yes. So the Vegeta I just comboed off as a protection plan, and that was primarily just kind of getting cards into my Z energy real quick. If you combo with it, you pay 1 green as auto, and you choose one of your Saiyans and gives it double strike. So yeah, initially you can give the Son Goku crit the double strike and crit. It is a 15k, so you're only making it 20k. So it's one of those things where it's not like, since Champa and Kai are gone, you're not swinging with a 10k boost. It's only a 5k boost with the option to give it double strike. So it's 20k in the end. And now if I want to continue pushing into it, I will. This is a hard to card situation. I drew a card and I saw an opportunity. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go into this then. I activated the Son Goku, Fate Arrivals. It snipes your card with barrier. You're protected because of your effect. And then the Z Awaken has an activate battle where I tap an 18 and I KO a card ignoring barrier. I think it has to have blocker as well. And that 4-drop just happens to meet that requirement.
Yeah, I mean, that was literally like the perfect storm for removing it. But at this point, we're on turn 4 going into turn 5. Like, it's kind of done its job, especially since I didn't hit any of the 6 drops in an ideal way. So at that point, I couldn't go up with it anymore. So it was like, okay.
I wasn't 100% aware of that time. And I was like, I'm just going to do this. It'll give me pressure, and I'll be able to kind of push on you. Having Mecha Frieza was great, and then immediately following up with your blocker negate was even better.
Yeah, I mean, removing it was still the correct play, because if you didn't remove it, this turn would have been so incredibly explosive.
Yes.
That there would have probably been no way for you to survive it. So at least without Dormant. So I think it was 100% the correct play.
You spend some time, I think, debating on what to charge, and then as soon as you dropped this card, I was like, yo, what? And I was so thrown off because you had comboed already once with Bobbity. And I was like, okay, you're not playing the Krillmans. I didn't like understand why. I was like, is it searchable? I don't know what's going on here. And then when you charge, I'm like, that makes sense why you're not charging the or you didn't have that super combo. And this was sneaky. Like doing this on turn 5 was very sneaky.
Yeah, this is my really neat tech for the deck. because a lot of the deck, a lot of people are complaining, especially when the cards were slowly being revealed. They're like, we need a another 1+10K. We don't want to keep dropping our win con for these activate mains to go even on cards on the activate main effects. We need another 1+10K. So then I went to the workshop, of course, and I started looking at Majin cards and all of them in my deck boxes and stuff. And I said, you know what? This fits perfectly, and it's another way to win the game. Um, you don't want to charge it until you go to use it. And if you just need the activate main, discard one for a 1+10K, perfectly fits the bill there too. Um, it's exactly what I think the deck needs. And you can go a more blue-yellow route with like some more Zamasu with Eliminators and Sensu Bean and stuff for defensive plays if you want. But uh, in my like theory crafting brain, I was like, it doesn't really work.
So
And here you were like, oh, it makes sense.
yeah, so I had two options. I could have taken the double strike and had two more cards in my hand, but the problem is that I have a few cards in my hand to negate with, and this is being one of them, and then Shocking Grass is another one. And I play this card, and I'm like, okay, do it. I played. I'm like, tap 3, and you're like, what? And I'm like, tap your 3 energy. And then both you and Jake look over the card, like, does it say that or something? I'm like, no. Where's your counter? And you're like, oh, I don't got it. I'm like, holy crap. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We will get the token back because it does say, I think 4 or less. And with the Z leader, I get to play it by discarding discarding one card from my hand.
And this is one of those situations where I said that we definitely missed auto timers here. Because I had to think about, so the Z leader says if you raise a Majin Buu's power by skill, you get to choose one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, ignoring barrier, KO it, and then gain its skills. So here I was like, you know what? This is perfect. I gain this crit, get him to lose another card, and this is where Bancroft was saying the token should be back. So we brought it back here. It doesn't have combo power. It's literally just a 5K sitting there. But that could win me the game under certain circumstances. But this is kind of where I was talking about earlier, where even if you remove the 4 drop, by turn 4, I can play it again for 2 energy. And whenever I realized this in this game, my interest in the deck and belief in the deck went up so much higher, because outside of like theory crafting, I spent all of my time thinking, how do I win the game? How do I win the game? How do I win the game? That's when this Buu came into play. And then I was like, well, that didn't win me the game. How do I win the game? And that's because I didn't see the cooler counter, but that just kind of happens. But I had this Z battle card and the 4 drop in my hand. So that allowed me to play the 4 drop out again. And from here, I was like, you know what? I can win. Depending on what he has in hand, I've got this. So we activate main, we discard that Buu. There's nothing for me to rest with his effect. And we have dual attack 25K, single. And we're just trying to get you to decide if you're going to combo out of this swing or not, or the next one.
So I think I said after I did that auto, I'm like, oh wait, I might have missed that timing earlier. We did miss that timing earlier in the turn. Just want to point that out now. But you said it's whatever.
Yeah, I was like, it's whatever. I missed my timing. You missed your timing. Come see, come saw.
You saw a cooler.
I did. Literally, I drew it off some effect at the end. So
yeah. You, I think we missed it, but you did discard your secret rare, which you said you were holding on to for my Cell Max, because before this round started, this being the first round of the night, we had talked about, I was like, oh yeah, this is my spice. And I'm like, shit, I just told you my spice before we played.
Yeah, I was like, well, I needed to save it for some kind of big bomb. I was like, if he plays any really big card, I've got 17 in hand, we'll stop it and remove another card on the board. That's also an issue. The only thing is, if you're playing Super 17 in your deck, you cannot charge that blue energy until you go for game. And if you charge a blue energy, that Super 17 is dead in your hand.
Yep.
So
So with that being said, thank you for tuning in. Keep in mind there's buttons down below, links in the description. Check out Trevor's profile tomorrow, and have a good day.